Hello, good day, my glorious families. I welcome you all to today's chapter of the day. So the Lord's response, we are in chapter 9. The Lord responds to Solomon after Solomon prayed fervently on the temple. After Solomon dedicated the temple, and you needed to hear what those prayers, the wordings in those prayers, they were so powerful. And that is how you will know if a temple is actually dedicated to God or to something else. That is how you will know if that temple is actually, if God is actually there, if God's word is present at your place of worship. That is how you find out. So let's continue into so what did the Lord say after he finished praying? Let's see. When Solomon finished building the temple of the Lord, the royal palace, and all that Solomon desired to do, the Lord appeared to Solomon a second time, just as he had appeared to him at Gibeon. The Lord said to him, I have heard your prayer and petition you have made before me. I have consecrated this temple you have built to put my name there forever. That part, let's not ignore. He said, I have consecrated that temple you have built, and I have put my name there forever. My eyes and my heart will be there at all times. My heart and my eyes will be there at all times. So God does not necessarily live, because God is a spirit. He doesn't live in a temple. He doesn't sit there. He doesn't sit there physically, but his eyes are there. His heart is there. His mind is there. So when you pray, he answers. As for you, verse 4, if you walk before me as your father David walked, with a heart of integrity and in what is right, doing everything I have commanded you, and if you keep my statutes and ordinances, I will establish your royal throne over Israel forever, as I have promised your father David. You would never fail to have a man on the throne of Israel. Eve. That is one thing we should always remember. There is always something that God, like obedience is just what something is required of us. But the thing is it that difficult? Just the way the children feel like it's difficult to obey us. Obey us. That is how it's also kind of difficult for us to obey God. Really? Okay, verse 6, if you or your sons turn away from following me, and do not keep my commands, my statute that I have set before you, and if you go and serve other gods and bow in worship to them, I will cut off Israel from the land and I gave them. I will reject the people. I will reject the temple I have sanctified for my name. Israel will become an object of scorn and ridicule among all the peoples. Hey. Verse 8, though this temple is not exalted, everyone who passes by will be appalled and will scoff. Hey, they will say, why did the Lord do this to this land and this temple? Then they will say, because they abandoned the Lord their God, who brought their ancestors out of the land of Egypt. They held on to other gods, and bowed in worship to them and served them. Because of this, the Lord brought all this ruin on them. King Aram's 20 towns. Verse 10, at the end of 20 years, during which Solomon had built the two houses, the Lord's temple and the royal palace, King Hiram of Tyre, having supplied him with cedar and cypress logs and gold for his every wish, King Solomon gave Hiram 20 towns in the land of Galilee. So Hiram went out from Tyre to look over the towns Solomon had given him, but he was not pleased with them. Why? So he said, what are these towns you've given me, my brother? So he brought them the land of Gabor, as they are still called today. Now Hiram had sent the king 9,000 pounds of gold, Solomon's first labor. Verse 15. This is the account of the first labor that King Solomon had imposed to build the Lord's temple, his own palace, the supporting terrace, the wall of Jerusalem, and Azor, Megiddo, and Gezer. Pharaoh, king, and Egypt had attacked and captured Gezer. He then burnt it, killed the Canaanites who lived in the city, and gave it as a dowry to his daughter Solomon's wife. Then Solomon rebuilt Gezer, Lower Beth Horon, Belat Tamar in the wilderness of Judah, all the storage cities that belong to Solomon, the chariot cities, the cavalry cities, and whatever Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, Lebanon, or elsewhere in the land of his dominion. As for all the peoples who remained in the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Avites, and Jebusites, who were not Israelites, their descendants who remained in the land after them, those whom the Israelites were unable to destroy completely, Solomon imposed forced labor on them. It is still this way today. Really? That part. So it's still like that today. They still work hard labor up to now. But Solomon did not consign the Israelites to slavery. They were soldiers, his servants, his commanders, his captains and commanders of his chariots and his cavalry. These were the deputies who were over Solomon's work, 550 who supervised the people doing the work. Solomon's other activities, verse 24. Pharaoh's daughter moved from the city of David to the house that Solomon had built for her. He then built the terraces. Verse 25, 3 times a year, Solomon offered burnt offerings and fellowship offerings on the altar he had built for the Lord, and he burnt incense with them in the Lord's presence. So he completed the temple. King Solomon put together a fleet of ships at Ezion Geber, which is near Elot on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Edom. With the fleet, Hiram sent his servants, experienced seamen, along with Solomon's servants. They went to Ophir and acquired gold there, 16 tons, and delivered it to Solomon. Then in chapter 10, he's the Queen Sheba. Hey. Okay, so let's ponder a little bit. Reflection and response. What are some of the precautions all Christians should take to avoid Israel's failure? I ponder on this, and I have a lot to talk about in this one. What are those precautions we have to take note? Christians of today, what do we take note? What are those precautions we have to note down so that we don't suffer like they suffer, so that we don't repeat the sins of our forefathers? What should we avoid? What should we avoid as Christians today in this whole thing? Solomon, as wise as he was, he still fell into sin. What should we avoid? God bless you for watching. I love you all. I see you all next time. Bye. Ciao, ciao.